This is your June monthly market recap. In this video, I'm going to go over all the events that occurred this past June 2023 that will affect the Toronto area real estate market and review the market stats for how Toronto real estate performed last month. If it's your first time watching, my name is Jonathan Lee and I'm a Toronto area real estate agent based in Etobicoke. Most of the charts I'm presenting today were provided by the Toronto Regional Real Estate Board or pulled from Twitter from the accounts of some of the bigger market analysts like Daniel Foch and Scott Ingram. So the year is officially half over. How are we doing from a real estate perspective? The 20-year average for residential real estate sales through the Toronto Regional Real Estate Board in just the city of Toronto is about 36,000 sales or transactions a year across both freehold and condo homes. The average for the last 5 years is about 33,000 sales. Some of that decrease is due to buyers leaving the city throughout the pandemic, investors and homeowners holding on to what they have, perhaps keeping the family home in the family, and fewer condo completions over the pandemic to provide additional supply. Even though we did have a pickup in mid-spring 2023, the first 6 months of the year is still way down compared to previous years. January to June 2023 saw only 14,500 sales. That same period in 2022 saw 17,500 sales, and in 2021 saw 24,000 sales, and 2020 saw 12,000 sales, but that was also the initial pandemic year, so a bit of an outlier. The current rolling 12-month sales from July 2022 to June 2023 is only 24,500 transactions. That's about a 32% decrease from the 20-year average of 36,000. This is really important because it suggests that in the city of Toronto, there are approximately 10 to 12,000 sales that weren't done in the last 12 months that still need to be done. Buyers, upsizers, and downsizers still want and need to make a move, but many are just delaying it. And as the market stays cool for longer, meaning fewer total transactions occurring, the number of delayed transactions may just continue growing. Not to mention, our population is also growing and we will have more buyers entering the country needing to buy. When financing conditions normalize, will our markets suddenly be capable of supporting an additional 10, 15, or God forbid, 20,000 transactions to support this backlog of needs? We know it won't. Does that mean that things will pick up in the second half of 2023? I mean, it's possible. Typically, we only see about 45% of all the annual sales transactions happen in the second half of the year, but in 2 of the last 3 major market shifts, in 2020, the pandemic year, 2018, which saw an introduction of the foreign buyer tax and the mortgage stress test, and in the 2008-2009 recession, the second half of the year saw over 50% of the total sales for the year. So a significant market pickup this fall is still possible, but I don't know if that will necessarily be the case this time around. A lot of the confidence and gusto in real estate seems to have been taken out of the market. Homeowners are scared to move, investors are scared to buy, pre-con buyers are struggling to close, and all of this is centered around mortgage rates, which brings me to my next point. If you watched my last market update video, you'll know that on June 7th, the Bank of Canada raised interest rates above 25 basis points or 0.25%. The buzz around the water cooler is that the Bank of Canada isn't done raising them yet, and we shouldn't write off the potential for another 1 or 2 additional hikes in 2023. But after inflation rose in April to 4.4%, it quickly dropped again in May to a year-over-year rate of 3.4%. A lot of that was driven by a drop in gas prices, but we still have a gap of nearly 1.5% to get to the target 2% rate, meaning we're only about halfway there. Something that's really important to note with inflation, and I don't hear it nuanced enough in the news, is inflation is measured every month but on a year-over-year basis. So with the last inflation rate announcement, we were comparing May prices this year compared to May in 2022. We don't need to get prices back to where they were in 2020 before the pandemic. We just have to be no more than about 2% higher than the same month a year back and sustain that rate for a while the Bank of Canada considers dropping rates. Now, June 2022, last year, inflation rates were 8.1%, and that was when inflation peaked. So this August in 2023, when we're comparing June 2023 inflation numbers, I think we'll probably be a good chunk under 3.4%, maybe in the 2s. But from there, it will probably be a slower, more gradual slog to get us back to 2%, and that is when things might get challenging. In terms of real estate, what may happen in August, if we do start flirting with an inflation rate announcement that's in, say, the high 2s, is we might see real estate market bulls start look at revisiting making a move in fall of 2023 in anticipation of interest rates dropping in early 2024, Once again, buying in before the market gets hot. Is that the right thing to do? I don't know. But if real estate prices are ever really going to drop, we probably need a multi-year period of sustained high rates to the point where all market confidence is just completely burned out of the market. That would be extremely uncomfortable for every mortgage holder. But in the meantime, our population also keeps growing. Canada crossed a major population milestone in June, hitting 40 million people. I was kind of surprised. I was not following the actual figure, but also pretty impressed that we hit the big 4-0. I remember as a teenager, like 18 years back, being aware that our population was in the low 30 millions, and over the last nearly 20 years or so, and while Toronto has certainly changed a lot, average home prices have more than tripled in the last 20 years, I also feel like it hasn't changed much. We still have the same number of TTC stations, and our growth in housing is crazy slow. This graph that I pulled from Daniel Foch shows that our housing supply in Ontario is over 100,000 units in the red, and this is putting so much upward pressure on home prices in Toronto. It's bonkers. And the last thing that I want to mention before jumping into the Toronto numbers is the amount of money locked into fixed rate mortgages that is up for renewal with the major banks over the next 2 to 3 years. There's over $500 billion in Canadian mortgage renewals that will be coming up in the next 2 to 3 years for borrowers that locked into rock bottom rates of 2020 and 2021. While 2025, 2026 interest rates will probably be lower than today's 6 to 7% in 2 years, and the mortgage stress test made sure that these homeowners could continue to service a mortgage since they qualified them around 5%, there's a good chance these homeowners will be very house poor come renewal time and will be spending very little money, potentially keeping our economy slow for some time to come. Now onto the June 2023 real estate numbers. So both number of units sold and average price were up year over year for June 2023. Big reason for this is the real estate market started seeing a slowdown and contrasted in June of 2022 after the Bank of Canada made the second consecutive 50 basis points or 0.5% rate hike about a year back. So this year over year increase has a lot more to do with events that occurred a year ago, last year, than any new momentum that the market has this June 2023. June reported 7,481 sales across all the GTA, the Greater Toronto Area, through the Toronto Regional Real Estate Board, with an average price of $1,182,000. The average listing days on market was 14, and the average property days on market was 19, both down from where they were a year ago. Sales transactions and average price are both down a little bit month over month if you compare here, but this drop is pretty normal and is in line with what is seasonally expected to happen, as many movers, they tend to focus more on summer vacation come June, July, and August. I did find things to slow down a bit this June. I don't know how much of it was my attention looking at the markets to try to get a sense for how much the latest rate hike influenced the market, or if it was just influenced by the natural ebbs and flows of seasonality and summer vacation. But as far as the health of the real estate market goes, just want to point out that there were more sales in June 2023 with fewer listings compared to 1 year ago. So overall, it still does seem like there is a fairly high level of confidence in real estate. So the average price of a detached home in the 416 dropped month over month from about $1,913,000 in May 2023 to $1,785,000 in June 2023. Is it suggesting that higher priced homes aren't moving quite as quickly and are sitting on the market for longer? Semis, condos, townhouses are all similarly priced month over month. And anecdotally, I do notice that, properties over about 1.3, maybe 1.5 million, they do tend to sit longer and aren't turning or selling quite as quickly. But overall, condos are continuing to be in the lagging asset class and are actually about flat year over year. You can see here it's minus 0.2% and down slightly in the 905, which is unsurprising as more companies mandate going back into the office at least a couple days a week. Fewer first-time home buyers are looking to buy their first home in the 905. All the meanwhile, freehold properties are up in the 905 year over year, all across the board, townhouses, semi-detached, and detached homes, as upsizers move out to the suburbs, as city prices, as you can see, continue to be very expensive. As the summer progresses, I don't expect we'll see much change to the market through July, even if there is another interest rate hike on the 12th. July tends to be a quieter month with fewer buyers and sellers taking new action, but if there is another interest rate hike, it may potentially affect movers who start considering their options in August and whether they do end up making a move this fall or not. So that wraps up my monthly market update. If you have any questions, you can drop me a line or schedule a call with me through Calendly by clicking on the link below in the description. Enjoy your July, and I'll see you guys on the next video.